Right, ladies and gentlemen, I am back again with another edition of Felons Talk. I got a feeling that I might be on, excuse me, I might be on the shit list again with, you know, uh, John's phone calls. I think they took me off his phone list again. So I'll do my own show. So what, right? Anyway, today I was going to do a story about Al Benton, Big Al from the Aryan Brotherhood, and how I got to know him and become really close friends with him. But before I go into that, I want to add something to the video that I did yesterday about people dying in prison. Okay. One of the things that they do when you go to prison is they ask you that if you should die in prison, first they ask you, next of kin, and they ask you that if you should die in prison, do you want to donate your organs? They ask you that. And if you say, yeah, then they will harvest your organs after you pass away. And they'll use them for a lot of guys say, sure, why not? I mean, if I'm dead, why not? I mean, help you, somebody else. It's good karma, isn't it? Anyway, I was watching a show about this one dude who was in California state prison system, and he was being attacked by two individuals with knives. They were stabbing him. He was up on a pull-up bar, right? And they waited for him to get up there, and they attacked him, started stabbing him. The gun tower, gave some warning shots, but they kept going. And the tower gunner ended up shooting one of the assailants, one of the guys that was doing the stabbing. He killed him. Well, he shot him. And the guy hit the ground. And the other guy, he went on the ground too, because they told him lay down, or you'll get shot too, and he didn't want to get shot, so he laid down. And they rushed in, and they took the victim and the guy who had been shot, one of the assailants. They took them both to the hospital. All right, and they get them down there at the hospital, and they're trying to save their, both of them. They're trying to save their lives, and they're both in the same emergency room area, like right next to each other. They're working on both of them. There's a team of nurses and nurse practitioners and doctors working on the guy that got stabbed, and there's another team of professionals working on the guy who got shot. And the guy who gets shot dies on the operating table. There was nothing they could do for him. They tried, and there just wasn't anything they could do. So he passed away. And when he did, they started to harvest his organs right there and then, because you got to get them while they're, while the body's still warm. You got to do it within like seconds after they die, or minutes, or else the fucking organs aren't any good. The wild ass part about this is that the other guy, the one that had been stabbed, is no more than 4 feet away, and he's watching them harvest the organs of the guy who just tried to murder him. What an experience that must have been, huh? Wow. Anyway, I just had to bring that to your attention, man. That was just a pretty crazy thing, So anyway, onward we go, okay? And I might have to make a 2-part story out of this. I don't know. Do you guys remember an earlier video when I talked about Sonny Francesi waking me up and saying, there's been a murder in the cell block, and they're getting ready to lock it down. You might as well get up and get out of the cell block, because if you don't want to get locked in with, because they locked the cell block down after a murder. So the best thing you can do is get out of the cell block so you don't get locked in, because you might be in for a while, and most people would rather not be locked in the cell block. So me and my cell partner are leaving the cell block. Now, in Atlanta, in the old Atlanta, before they renovated it, these were like something out of a James Cagney movie. 5 tiers high. Catwalks are about 3.5 feet wide. Five. It's it was like cages, really, basically. Anyway, in the middle of each cell block, there's a stairwell that goes up to the fifth floor. There's one in the front of the cell block and one in the middle. There's none in the back. So as we're passing the stairwell in the middle of the cell block, excuse me, we see a correctional officer picking up a knife that had been discarded into the trash can. And he's got his little handkerchief out, and he's picking up the knife with the hanky so that he doesn't get his fingerprints. He wants to preserve the fingerprints on the knife. Okay, and we see it. The knife is bent up. There's blood on it and everything. It's crazy, right? And so what happened was, they locked up Big Al Benton. And when they locked him up, me and my cell partner contacted his lawyer. We found out who his lawyer was. I can't remember his lawyer's name, but it was an Italian guy. Big Al had a pretty illustrious career as a criminal, man. He was one of the earlier guys who had been involved in the drug trade in South Florida, and him and this guy Zambita were both, they were like road dogs, and they were involved in like drug trafficking and like a couple of murders right out there. Zambita decides he's going to testify against Al. Al only had 8 years, man. 8 years, okay? Zambita might have testified against him in a murder case if he had lived. And one thing led to another, and I guess Big Al decided, to kill him, because he got there the night before. It was crazy. Why would they send him to Atlanta when Big Al was there? I guess they didn't check what, they made a big mistake is what they did. And as soon as he got there, they put him right in the same cell block with us. Al was like right down a tier from us. Zambita was on like the second floor on the other side, the second tier on the other side of the block in the admittance and orientation area of B block. And he was on the top bunk. So what happened was Big Al stepped on the bottom bunk to kill him on the top bunk. And the guy on the bottom bunk was named Marion Pruitt. Okay? Now, Pruitt woke up because I think Al stepped on his arm on the way up to the top bunk to try to kill Zambita. And he became a government witness. Okay? And so what had happened was, me and my co-defendant, my cell partner, we contact Al's lawyer. We wrote him a letter and we said, listen, man, I know that Al is not guilty of this crime because we saw a black guy covered in, he was wearing kitchen whites, because guys who work in the kitchen wear white pants and white shirts. covered in blood. And he was coming down the steps. He took a knife and he threw it in the trash can. We don't know who the black guy was. You know, we can't identify him, but it wasn't a white guy, so it wasn't Al, right? And that's what we're willing to testify to. Okay? To make a long story short, they thought that was just wonderful, right? And they were going to call us as witnesses. In the meantime, me and my cell partner picked up a murder case of our own. And at the time when we were being subpoenaed for Al Benton, okay, they brought us back from Marion. We had been transferred to Marion at that time, and they had to bring us back, you know, on the subpoena. And Al, I believe Al was Al was still in federal prison in Atlanta. They put my co-defendant in the Fulton County Jail, and they put me in jail. Jesus Christ, Clayton County Jail in Jonesboro. So they separated, you know. Why, I don't know. They do that all the time when they're bringing people back for cases. They put us in different, you know, jails, or sometimes they'll bring us right back to the pen. So I'm in this Clayton County jail, and they bring this guy in, and I don't recognize him. I don't know who he is. But he put him in a cell next to me. We're both we're on lockdown situation. It's kind of like segregated. These cells were segregated from the rest of the jail population. And the guy starts talking to me. He says, "Hey, man, what are you doing here?" I said, "I don't know, man. I'm just down here to help a friend out on a murder case." He said, "Who?" I said, "I don't know. It's a friend of mine, man." He said, "Are you sure you're not here to testify against somebody?" I said, "What?" I said, "Motherfucker, who you talking, man? What are you talking about, dude?" He said, "Oh, I thought maybe you might be one of the witnesses against him." I said, "No, dude, I don't do that. I'm not a rat, you know." Well, anyway, one thing leads to another, and this guy asked to make a phone call. This guy is Marion Pruitt, by the way. I don't even know this yet, right? I didn't know all this at that point. He goes to make a phone call, and then one of the trustees comes back and says to me, "Hey, that guy's talking to the FBI and telling the FBI that you're here in the jail and that you're threatening him and that, you know, he's afraid of you." I said, "Really?" So that's when I figured out that he was, you know, testifying against Al Benton. Okay. 1 or 2 days go by, and they bring us down to the federal courthouse. They put him in the Marshals car in the front, and they took me and put me in the back. And he's trying to tell the Marshals, he says, "Hey, tell this guy that I'm not a government witness." He's trying to get the Marshals to tell me that he's not a rat. And they're looking at me and they're just shaking their heads and going, they're laughing, right? They're like, "Jesus Christ, man. Does he really expect us to fucking stick up for him?" You know what I mean? So I knew what time it was, right? So we get down to the courthouse, right? And they put us in a cell, and then they moved us around a little bit. And I was with Al, and I was telling Al about the guy, right? And he said, "Yeah, that's Marion Pruitt, man." So I said, "Oh, I didn't know. I mean, I don't know who the fuck he was. I never seen him because he never he was only in Atlanta for one one day before they, locked him up for protective custody as a witness on that murder. So anyway, I had to go out and I talked to the lawyer. And as I was coming back, I looked into one of these rooms, like little visiting rooms where you meet with the lawyers or the state attorney or the U.S. attorney, as a matter of fact. And here's this fucking dude. He's sitting there talking to the U.S. attorney, and I looked in, and he pointed at me and said something like, "There he is. He's the one," or something. And I'm like, "Hey, you fucking rat motherfucker," And Al is sitting like maybe 20 yards down, and he's going, "Shh, don't do that, man. Don't fucking say that." Makes, it's not good for him. He's getting ready to go, he's getting ready to go in there and fight for his freedom. And he don't want me threatening the witness and making it look like we're trying to intimidate this witness, especially when I'm the fucking one of the defense witnesses, it's not a good look. All right. But as the trial proceeded, they decided not to use me and my co-defendant because we were already indicted on another murder, and it just didn't look good to bring two people who were already indicted on another murder to testify for a guy who killed an inmate, the same thing that we're accused of. So it was just, we didn't get to testify, but Al ended up beating the murder case, and he got conspiracy. He got the conviction on the conspiracy, and he still got a life sentence. Now, fast forward, they put Marion Pruitt into the witness protection program, and they gave him a parole. He was only doing like 10 years for a handgun. And because of his testimony, they gave him a parole, and they put him in the witness protection program and gave him another name, and they relocated him to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he got married, and he just got tired of living the square life. So he kills his wife and goes on a crime spree, right? He holds up, I think they caught him in Alabama or Mississippi, and he killed 3 people along the way in holdups. He would just go in, he'd hold up a store, he'd kill the person, and I think he had like 3 of them. One in Arkansas, one in Mississippi, and another one somewhere else, plus the one he had in Albuquerque. He just became a serial killer. And this was like only 6 or 7 months after he got out of prison. And it made like so that's when they said, well, from now on, we're not going to just give paroles to people who snitch on murder cases because of him and a couple of other people who got out and committed heinous crimes, who had been released by the parole board, having given testimony in cases involving murders in prison. So that was the end of that for the parole board and for the snitches. Marion Pruitt was given a death penalty in Arkansas. And he sat on death row for, 17 years, something like that. He was 17 years. And, he asked for his last meal. He had some crazy big ass fucking meal that he ate, which was ridiculous. Who the fuck wants to have a big meal just before you're getting ready to be murdered, Um, I don't think I'd have an appetite, but hey, some people aren't, as sensitive as I am. You know what I mean? Um, he had this big ass meal, and then they strapped him in for the lethal injection. And they asked him if he had any last words. And his last words were, yeah, he said, man, I made all that shit up about Al Benton. He says, Al didn't kill that guy. I did. I'm the one that stabbed him to death. I just put that on Al Benton so I could get a parole. He was lying. He was lying. Al was the one that killed him. You know what I mean? Why he told that lie just before he got murdered, I don't know. It makes no sense to me, but hey, the minds of some people, right? I mean, he was a twisted guy. He was a twisted fucking guy, man. You can imagine, just from the story I told you, that he wasn't a very, he didn't have all his shit together, you know what I mean? Um, and he died, and I guess he didn't care, you know. Al Benton continued. First of all, let me say this. When all this shit happened, when he killed Zambita, he wasn't in the Aryan Brotherhood. That happened later, okay? Once he got that murder, Barry Mills fell in love with him. He's the type of guy we need in the Aryan Brotherhood, and he made him one of the commissioners, I think. As time went on, he became one of the commissioners in the Aryan Brotherhood. And then when he eventually he got sent to Lewisburg, and he was the one that got the letter from Barry and T.D. Bingham to, go to war with D.C. And him and Wayne Bridgewater, and I forget the other guy's name, went up into A Block, and they did that massacre. 2 people dead, one of them almost dead. And they locked him up. And within a day, Al decided to become a government witness. Okay? Al decided he wanted to flip over, and to the shock of even the fucking administration, the FBI, they were shocked. I mean, this guy he was just involved in a massacre like less than 24 hours ago, and now he wants to make a deal? Why did he even bother to do it in the first place? And the crazy part was that Wayne Bridgewater was getting ready to go home in a couple of years. I think Wayne was from Seattle, Washington. Wayne wanted to go home, man. He didn't want to commit these murders. Al talked him into it, man, and then flipped on him and fucking got him a life sentence. And now he's an ADX. He'll never get out. Wow, it just blows my mind, man. Al was one of the main witnesses in the RICO trial in 2006 in Santa Ana against Barry and TD, and I believe he made a statement on the stand that he still loved Barry Mills and thought he was like one of the best human beings he had ever met, but he just felt like he had to go ahead and do, help the government so that he didn't end up getting a life sentence. That was crazy. By the way, Al Benton is Jewish. Same way Bartosh is Jewish. And same way they say T.D. Bingham was Jewish. So these guys are in the Aryan Brotherhood. Made no difference, right? Or part Jewish, whatever. With T.D., I don't think he's completely Jewish. I think he's part Jewish. The idea that, what ended up happening was Al got 9 years, Okay, 9 years. He pled guilty for some like assault. They dropped the murder and gave him like let him plead guilty to assault. He got 9 years. Okay, I'm pretty sure he's free now, because on the life sentence that he got in 1979, he would have maxed out in 2009 on that. On the 9 years that he got, I don't know when that sentence was given to him, but it's a new law sentence. New law means it's not a parolable sentence. You do 85%. So he did about 8 on that 9. And I think the judge backdated the sentence to when he was first indicted on the charge. So I don't think that 9, and it was running concurrent with his life sentence. So I don't think that 9 years had any. It didn't impede him getting out of prison. I think he got out in 2009. I'm not 100% sure, but this is my understanding from people that I've talked to that know how the sentence ran, and this is what I've been told. So he's been out of prison a long time. I don't think he's been back. He's done over 30 years in prison, and yeah. Al Benton is a free man today. Yeah. So that's today's story. Anybody wants to make any comments, ask any questions, please like and subscribe. And go back and look at my other videos. I did a couple of videos over the last 2 days that a lot of people haven't even watched yet. I don't know why, but I'll see you guys soon.